Guardians 3. Let's see how it goes.
Hello, Bobby from Bobby's Breakdowns. Your show is just so wonderful to watch, but I feel like I need to cut it up a bit. Let's dance.
What is up, everybody? It's your boy Bobby from Bobby's Breakdowns, and today we are going to be reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And oh boy, what a doozy it was. Man, I loved this movie. We'll get into my rating later. We'll go right through it. But wow, James Gunn went out with a bang from Marvel, and wow, I was so amazed. And in the movie, I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is incredible. And we'll get into why. But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, if you haven't seen it, go see it. This will be a spoiler review, by the way, and I will be spoiling everything. So don't watch if you haven't watched and you want to watch. Let's dive right in. So we start off, we see a young Rocket, and in this moment, I'm like, oh no. I was scared right off the jump. And then we transform into a modern day Rocket, and I was like, okay. And boy, that was the first of the wild rides it takes us on. This seemed to take place right after the Christmas special, which was really cool. Again, if you haven't seen that, go see it. It came out in like November. Enjoyed it. So Quill is just hammered off of his behind, and they take him out, they put him to bed. And then we see a funny back and forth with Kraglin and Cosmo. Cosmo's the talking dog. One of the MVPs of this movie. They're trying to perfect the arrow, and Cosmo wins, the dog. So Kraglin says, you're a bad dog, and running theme throughout the movie. We'll get into that for sure. Then we see Rocket just standing there looking out, and then all of a sudden, boom! Our first look at Adam Warlock, played by Will Poulter. And I thought Warlock was going to be the main villain in this movie, and he was not. He was not in it a lot at all. And Warlock tackles him through a lot of walls. Drax takes him down, but eventually he gets the better of Drax. He rips Groot's head off. So he is not playing games. Warlock was a serious villain at first. Then he kind of became goofy, so that was the slight downfall for this movie. But we got a villain that came out of nowhere, which I liked. So like I said, Warlock's takes down Drax and Batista, you know. And then Rocket's in bad shape, running theme through the movie. And if I haven't mentioned this yet, this was the Rocket Raccoon movie, and I was all for it, man. Really good. And then they're going after Warlock. Batista says one stupid person has to die, Drax. And yeah, of course, Batista's very funny. So we have the funny back and forth with Cosmo and Kraglin. Cosmo's like, I can't believe you called me a bad dog. I can't believe it. And he just won't let it go. Of course, it's like a real dog. So then we see Rocket back in the day again with his friends. And this movie really knew how to tug on your heartstrings. So then we see the High Evolutionary, the main villain of this movie, who was played by Murr from Peacemaker. James Gunn made Peacemaker, so boom. And he killed it in this movie. He would have been pretty high on my villains rankings, I'll just say that. And like I said, James Gunn sticks with his actresses and actors, so Quill is clearly upset about Rocket. Mantis says Rocket is his best friend, and Drax says he's second. I'm his best friend. So, of course, Batista, Drax, funny throughout the whole movie. And meanwhile, Batista's eating while this is going on. Mantis goes, can I have a Zarknut? He goes, no, I'm all out. Slowly reaches into the bag, puts one in his mouth. She goes, I thought you were all out. He goes, I just didn't want to give you one. Batista was great through this movie, you know. Then we see the Ravengers, also the Re-Avengers. Yeah, that's got to be a play on that, of course. And hello, Gamora, for the first time in this movie, and Sylvester Stallone. And then we have a brief encounter with Sylvester Stallone and Dave Batista, and wow, that is something I never would have seen coming. Yeah, that's just insane to me. Gamora asks who Quill is because she can't remember, and that tears Quill apart, you can tell. Then we see more of Rocket's backstory. Then we see a scene of them on another planet. Peter is trying to get Gamora to remember him, and he presses a button, and you think it's just them talking. But everybody hears him. Drax goes, oh, that was so painful. Nebula was like, I was hoping it would end sometime soon. And yeah, just hilarious back and forth. I loved that scene so much. And then we get a cameo from James Gunn's wife. She is the administrator. And I was like, I looked up, I'm like, oh, of course she's in it. And of course she should be. Of course the husband's gonna throw his wife in any chance he can get. Drax has a funny moment with Beetle Snort, who is trying to hit on Drax. Sorry, I'm replaying it's in my mind. Drax is like, oh, this always happens, and Mantis is like, what? Yeah, and so Quill tries to flirt, and it doesn't work. So Gamora takes over, holds at gunpoint. They have a funny moment in the trailer where Gamora is talking to Quill. She's like, that sounds like her, and he points at Nebula, and it's like Peter Quill just has a moment. He goes, never realized how black your eyes were. If you've seen the trailer, you know. So then we finally get the names of Rocket's friends. We're back in the day again. Layla, Teefs, and Floor. And yeah, they're all adorable. And Rocket says, I'm gonna get you out, don't worry. And yeah. So then Gamora tells off the Guardians on the ship. And for a PG-13 movie, they were pushing the boundaries a little on this. We'll get to that. Drax makes all of his analogies to Peter, and Peter's like, that ironically makes sense. So the Guardians arrive on Counter-Earth, which is the High Evolutionaries, like the president. He's all that. And then we get the scene from the trailer where Drax throws the ball in the girl's face, and then they hit him back. And so they make friends with the family, and they have a hilarious back and forth. And then they're trying to get in the car. Peter's in the car. Nebula cannot get in the car, and Peter says, get the in the car. And for the first time in MCU history, an F-bomb was dropped. And it was at a perfect moment. James Gunn went out, guns a-blazing on this, and I loved it. And then we finally have a meeting with Quill and the High Evolutionary. Emotional moment incoming. So Rocket gets all them out. He gets Layla out, and the Evolutionary shoots Layla. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, oh my goodness. And then, of course, they kill Teefs and Floor, and it's like, So Rocket escapes. Then they see, then they're back on Counter-Earth. Drax just clotheslines a guy off a motorcycle. It's like he does wrestling for a living. Never mind. Yeah, so they get on the bike, Mantis and Drax. So then the High Evolutionaries men finally get onto the ship, and they're trying to take Rocket. And Gamora's the only one on the ship. So Gamora, obviously, is showing some heart. She takes off with Rocket, and yeah, Warlock shows up, and they have a mini moment, but Warlock gets destroyed pretty easily, doesn't even fight. Gamora takes off a rocket, like I said. Counter-Earth is being blown up, for sure. And then Warlock's mother is a casualty in that one. Nebula calls for Drax and Mantis to bring the ship, and of course they aren't there because they were on the bike. And then Groot and Quill team up to kill everybody but the High Evolutionary. And then Groot has wings. Peter tackled the guy out. Groot flew after them. Groot has wings and brought them to safety. I was amazed by that scene. I did not see that coming. Then Quill takes the second evolutionary guy, kills him. Of course, Rocket sees Layla in like the afterlife and apologizes, and Rocket asks if he can come, and it's like, are they gonna do it? Are they gonna do it? And Layla says, of course. Not yet, though. And it's like, oh, and it's like, Rocket is alive. Even Gamora smiles. Yeah, and then Nebula, Drax, and Mantis have a standoff with the High Evolutionary. Then we go to Cosmo playing poker, and he is still upset that he got called a bad dog while they're playing poker. They're like, let it go, man, let it go. Obviously, it's like a dog. So funny. So then Nebula, Drax, and Mantis find all these children that they hid it away. And Drax addresses them as dumb idiots because, you know. But somehow Drax knows how to speak their language. I have no idea how that came to be, but go all out, Batista, my man. Kraglin shows up to help, and he's trying to take out the evolutionary. He does for the most part, but one failure. So then we see Quill typing in something while he's fighting Warlock, and then he tackles Gamora out of the ship, and the ship explodes, and Warlock is dead. So we think. And yeah, Gamora was like, well, what were you doing? And he's like, self-destructive mode. And it's like, okay. And then we go back to Kraglin. So the evolutionary invade the Guardians town, of course, and Kraglin comes to show up. We get a cameo from Yondu telling him, you can do it, boy. You can do it. So he shoots all the arrows. He gets most of them, but one of the bad guys gets past it. Then Cosmo, the dog, comes in and saves the day. And Kraglin says, you're a good dog. And Cosmo starts licking. He's like, I knew it. I knew it. And then the The final battle. Some of the Guardians want to stay, some of the Guardians want to leave, and even Gamora stays. Crazy. So then the High Evolutionary has had enough, and he tells them kill everyone but keep Rocket. And then there were so many kills and so many action scenes in the movie. James Gunn shot it brilliantly, and the soundtrack, if I didn't say it before, the soundtrack is awesome, just like every James Gunn movie and show. So somehow Warlock is still alive for a second. They get the kids to safety and Warlock, and Groot carries Warlock out, and Warlock says, why would you do that? I tried to kill you. And Groot says, you deserve a second chance. So that was a nice touching moment. And then, of course, Rocket goes back for all the raccoons and all the animals. They get them all out, and then the Evolutionary tries to kill Rocket one last time. The Guardians beat him up pretty badly, and they even take his face off, and they're like, Rocket, you can do it, you can do it. Rocket refuses to do it. So they're running off the ship. Peter loses his music playing device. So he goes back to get it. He jumps. He's in midair. He starts to freeze. His face, his body, and it's like, oh no, are they gonna kill Quill? It's like, oh no. Then Adam Warlock comes in for the save, rescues Peter, they bring him back, and it's like, okay, thank goodness. So Warlock became a good guy in the end. So it's interesting. He might be sticking around. I'm not sure. We'll get into a bunch of those though. So they have a moment. Groot speaks and Gamora understands him somewhat. And then Peter says this Gamora isn't so bad. And Gamora says, I bet we were fun back then. And then it's coming together. And then Peter and Mantis announce they are leaving the Guardians of the Galaxy. Nebula is building a new galaxy with Drax. Get into that in a little bit. And yeah, Quill makes Rocket the new leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And then Groot says, I love you guys. He actually says it. We hear it. And for the first time ever, we heard something other than we are Groot or I am Groot. So that was so cool. And then we hear the song Dark Days Are Over. Everybody's celebrating, dancing. They're waving goodbye to Mantis, Drax, and Peter. And it's like, oh man, this is truly the end of the true Guardians of the Galaxy. Gamora goes back to the Revengers. She's done. The Ravengers, sorry. And then Peter, like he was talking about earlier, goes to his grandfather's house. And they hug. And then you see Drax dancing, and everybody's cheering to end the movie. So in the first mid-credit scene, we see Rocket leading the new Guardians of the Galaxy. It's Kraglin, Cosmo, which I'm all for. One of the kids they rescued. I'm not sure how that came to be, but it seems like they might be the new Guardians going forward. So, yeah. I mean, with everybody leaving. Gamora's done. Zoe Saldana is announced she's done. It seems Mantis is done, and Drax Batista has confirmed he is done. I will miss that man, but he was hilarious in this movie, and hilarious throughout the three. Then we go to the post-credit scene, and we see Peter spending time with his grandfather. It's nice. The grandfather's reading the paper, and on the back of it, it says Kevin Bacon reveals all about alien abduction. The Christmas special. So that came back into play. And then the screen goes to black, and it says Star-Lord will return. I'm not sure if Chris Pratt will be Star-Lord. It could be somebody else. It could very well be Chris Pratt. I'm not sure, but it's interesting. I thought he was done. I thought he would go out with James Gunn, but we shall see. What a movie, man. But Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Volume 3, 9 out of 10. It's my favorite movie of the year so far. Incredible. The music, the emotion, the funny. I couldn't ask for much more. And James Gunn really went out with a bang from Marvel. I'll see you in a few weeks at the time of recording for The Flash, James Gunn, because I know you had a major hand in that movie. Let's see how that goes. But, man, I enjoyed it so much. I enjoyed all Guardians. 1, 3, 2 is my ranking, but 3 was phenomenal, and I enjoyed it so much. And, yeah, like I said, it's true end of an era. The OG Guardians are done. And, hey, they had a great run. 10-year run, give or take. But with that being said, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you give me a good old subscribe. I have enjoyed this movie thoroughly, and I'm going to be doing more movies to come. Fast and Furious is next, guys. But until next time, I'm Bobby from Bobby's Breakdowns, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.
Thanks for listening to Bobby's Breakdowns. Now go about your life, would you?